Hey everyone, ready to jump down the rabbit hole?
Always up for a good deep dive.
Today we're looking at Alex Monaldo's Conspiracies Bundle I.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Lots to unpack there.
It's a whole collection of essays all about, well,
Conspiracy theories, all the good stuff.
exactly. UFOs, secret societies, you name it.
Even some wild stuff about technology they say is being hidden from us.
The stuff of science fiction.
Maybe. But that's what makes it so fun to think about.
So this Conspiracies Bundle is not just a bunch of random theories, right?
No, Monaldo actually does a good job of connecting the dots.
In what way?
Well, he looks at how power and secrecy play into all these different theories.
That's interesting. So it's like a common thread.
Exactly. And it makes you think, like, how much is really going on behind the scenes?
Right. And how much do we really know?
Plus, the book is set up so we can kind of jump around between topics.
Oh, so it's like an anthology.
Yeah, which is perfect for us because we can pick out the juiciest bits.
So where should we start? Secret societies always get me hooked.
Classic.
Like the Illuminati. Monaldo goes deep into them, right?
He does. Looks at their history, the whole 9 yards.
But he doesn't just buy into all the hype, does he?
No, he's pretty level-headed. Separates the fact from the fiction.
So what's the real story with the Illuminati, according to Monaldo?
Well, he doesn't say they're running the world or anything like that, but he does raise some questions.
Like what?
Like, how do these groups, whether it's the Illuminati or others, how do they use their influence?
It's a bit unsettling to think about, honestly.
I know, right? All these secret agendas going on. But Monaldo also brings it back down to earth a bit.
How so?
Well, he talks about how we see this kind of stuff happening all the time, even without secret societies.
Like what? Give me an example.
Think about lobbying groups. They're not exactly secret, but they definitely work behind the scenes.
True. They influence policy all the time.
Right. And it's not always clear who they're really working for or what their ultimate goals are.
Makes you think twice about who's really pulling the strings.
Exactly. And that's what makes Monaldo's book so interesting. He's not just telling you what to believe, he's making you think.
So it's not about blindly accepting conspiracy theories.
Nope, it's about using them as a way to see the world differently.
To question things.
Yeah.
To look for the hidden agendas.
Exactly. And Monaldo doesn't stop at secret societies either. He also gets into this whole thing about suppressed technology.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. Like technology that's so advanced, they're keeping it from us.
Right. Free energy, cures for diseases, even anti-gravity.
Sounds like some kind of a movie.
I know, right? But Monaldo lays out some pretty compelling arguments.
So why would they suppress these technologies?
Well, he talks about a few possibilities. Maybe it's about money, keeping the current industries in power.
Or maybe control? Like if everyone had access to unlimited energy, who knows what would happen?
Right, it could disrupt the whole social order.
It's a scary thought, but also kind of exciting. Like, what if we could solve some of the world's biggest problems with this hidden technology?
I know. It makes you wonder what the world would be like if we weren't being held back.
What else does Monaldo cover in this book? There was something about UFOs, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, he goes there too.
Yeah.
And it's not just the usual alien stuff either.
What do you mean?
Well, he talks about all the recent stuff coming out, governments admitting they don't have all the answers about UFOs.
It's crazy how much that's been in the news lately. Like the Pentagon releasing videos and everything.
Right. And Monaldo uses that to make a point. If they're finally admitting they don't know everything about UFOs, what else are they hiding?
Makes you wonder what's really going on out there.
And he digs into all sorts of evidence, declassified documents, whistleblower accounts. He even brings up ancient myths and symbols that seem to point to alien contact.
Wow, that's going way back.
He really covers a lot of ground. But it all comes back to that same idea. Questioning what we're told, looking for the truth.
It's a reminder that there might be a lot more to the world than we realize.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting started.
Yeah, there's so much more to talk about.
Definitely. This is a deep dive we could keep going on for hours.
Okay, well, let's take a breath and come back to this.
Sounds good. I need a refill on my coffee anyway.
We'll be back in a bit to explore even more from Monaldo's Conspiracies Bundle.
Can't wait. There's some really wild stuff coming up.
Stay tuned, folks. This is going to get interesting.
It's kind of like you said before about going down the rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah, with all this conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, once you start questioning things, it can be hard to stop.
It's true. You can definitely go too far with it.
And Monaldo actually talks about that in the book.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, he talks about the difference between healthy skepticism and just like falling into paranoia.
Okay, so how do you know where that line is?
That's the tough part, right? He talks about how it's easy to get caught up in these echo chambers.
Oh, yeah, especially online.
You just see information that confirms what you already believe, and it's like, bam, you're down the rabbit hole.
It's like you're only getting one side of the story.
Exactly. And then it's hard to even see other perspectives.
And that's where things can get really dangerous.
Absolutely. You start thinking everyone who disagrees with you is like part of the conspiracy.
It's like you're building walls around yourself.
Yeah, and then it's impossible to have a real conversation or to learn anything new.
So what's the solution? How do you avoid falling into that trap?
Well, Monaldo talks about how important it is to diversify your sources of information.
So don't just read the same websites or follow the same people all the time.
Exactly. Try to get perspectives from different sides of the issue.
Even if it's something you disagree with.
Especially if it's something you disagree with, it's the only way to challenge your own beliefs.
It's tough though, right? No one likes to be wrong.
I know, but it's like a muscle you have to train, that ability to look at things objectively, even when it makes you uncomfortable.
And that's especially important with conspiracy theories.
Yeah, because they can play on our fears, you know?
It's like when things are uncertain or scary, it's easy to latch onto something that makes sense of it all, even if it's not true.
Right. And Monaldo talks about how these theories often pop up during times of social unrest or political turmoil.
When people are feeling anxious and looking for someone to blame.
Exactly. And then it becomes this us versus them mentality, which can be really dangerous.
It's like everything gets simplified into good guys and bad guys.
Yeah, and the world is never that simple.
It's messy and complicated, and there are rarely easy answers.
Right. And that's why it's so important to be critical of these narratives, to really examine the evidence and not just accept things blindly.
So how do we do that? With so much information out there, it's hard to know what to believe.
That's a good question. And Monaldo gives some practical tips, he says, to focus on the evidence.
Okay, so like what proof is there to back up the claim?
Exactly. And is it credible? Can you verify it? And are there other possible explanations that haven't been considered?
It's like being a detective, right? You got to gather the clues and see where they lead you.
Exactly. And sometimes the simplest explanation is the most likely one.
But sometimes it's hard to let go of an idea, even when the evidence doesn't add up.
Oh, I know. It can be tough to admit you were wrong.
Especially when you've invested a lot of time and energy into believing something.
It's like a part of your identity almost. But it's also really liberating to be able to say, okay, I was wrong about that. Let's move on.
Like taking off a blindfold.
Exactly. Suddenly you can see things more clearly.
That leads to something else Monaldo talks about, humility.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's about recognizing that you don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
that you might be wrong, and being open to learning from others.
Right. And that's so important when it comes to these kinds of topics because everyone has a different perspective, a different piece of the puzzle.
It's like we're all on this journey together, trying to figure things out.
And that's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah. Even if some of these theories are a bit out there, it's still fun to explore them, to think about the possibilities.
Absolutely. It sparks your imagination.
Yeah.
And it makes you think critically about the world around you.
So what would you say is the biggest takeaway from all this?
That's a good question. I think it's that we should never stop questioning.
Questioning everything.
Well, maybe not everything, but definitely the things that matter, the things that affect our lives, the things that shape our world.
So it's not about being cynical or distrustful.
No, it's about being informed and engaged. It's about thinking for yourself.
And being open to new ideas, even if they challenge your beliefs.
Exactly. And that's what makes Monaldo's book so valuable. It encourages us to do just that.
Yeah, it's definitely given us a lot to think about. Before we wrap up, though, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier
What's that?
about our current scientific paradigm.
Oh, yeah. How it might be, well, incomplete.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty wild thought. Like, what if there's a whole bunch of stuff science just hasn't figured out yet?
Right. And Monaldo suggests that some of what we consider fringe science, you know, the stuff that's kind of out there,
Yeah.
it might actually hold some keys to understanding reality better.
So things like, what, free energy?
Uh-huh. Anti-gravity, even consciousness itself.
Okay, now we're getting into some really deep stuff.
I know. But Monaldo argues that these ideas get dismissed by mainstream science because they don't fit our current models.
They're too weird.
Basically. But what if those models are just, I don't know, too limited?
Like we're trying to understand the universe with a tiny little telescope.
Kind of like that, yeah. And that maybe there are whole realms of energy and possibilities we haven't even scratched the surface of.
It's kind of humbling, honestly. Makes you feel like we know so little.
It is. But it's also exciting, right?
Yeah, in a way. It means there's still so much to discover.
Exactly. And that's where the real adventure lies. Not just accepting what we think we know, but keeping that sense of wonder.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this, and they're intrigued by these ideas, but they're also a bit hesitant. What would you tell them?
Good question. I'd say, first of all, follow your curiosity.
If something piques your interest, go for it.
Right. Read up on it, watch documentaries, talk to people who know more about it.
But also, don't just believe everything you hear.
Oh, absolutely. Got to use your critical thinking skills for sure.
And maybe even challenge your own assumptions.
Yeah, sometimes those are the hardest to let go of.
It's like the more you learn about something, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. And that's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Always learning, always growing.
This has been a really cool deep dive, I gotta say. We went from secret societies to UFOs to the nature of reality itself.
It's amazing what you can find when you start looking beyond the surface.
So for anyone listening who wants to do some exploring of their own, definitely check out Alex Minaldo's Conspiracies Bundle I.
It'll make you think, that's for sure. And who knows, it might even open your mind to some possibilities you had never considered before.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and most importantly, keep your mind open.